hello and welcome to a new video. My name is Priti and today I am here to review all 6 books of the Booker International Prize 2023. So there are 6 books for this shortlist and I have read all 6 of them and I am here to talk to you about each and every one of them in a sort of detailed review. And in the end I will tell you my personal rankings and who I think will win and who I think I want to win. So yeah, I'm really excited about you watching this video, and if you have read any of these books, do let me know what you think of them. And if you have been in the know of the Booker International Prize, then let me know who you think will win in the comments down below. And off to the reviews then. Hello, how are you? I have finished reading the first book of the shortlist, which is Boulder, which is the first book to ever be nominated from the language of Catalonian, which is in Spain. So that is amazing. Congratulations to the author, whose name is Eva Baltasar. I think Baltasar, and the translator's name is Julia Sanches. But not only is it amazing that it is nominated, but also it is amazing that it is a short book. It was only 104 pages, which is why I got to finish it in a day. So, woo! Oh my god, please applaud. No, please actually applaud. I want feel you applauding through the screen. No? Okay, it's fine. I finished it and I have thoughts because I think that this book was good but not great. So let's just get into a quick roundup of what this book is about, because since it is 104 pages, I can't tell you much, but essentially we are following this woman whose name is Boulder, nicknamed Boulder, and we first see her at sea, where she is a chef at a freight ship sort of thingy, and then we see her at this one stop in Chile somewhere, where she meets this woman, and they sort of fall in love, or rather in lust. Just a lot of sexy times, which was fun to read because this author is a poet, so she writes all the sexy times in very poetic terms. So it was very poetic fisting happening, and I personally got to know of a lot of different, one sort of sex toy which I wasn't aware of before, so that's fun. uh yeah, so that's what the International Booker does to you. They did say while announcing the shortlist that it was going to be sexy and cool, and I think this book is the sexy aspect of it. But anyway, I'm deviating. Essentially we're following Boulder, who then forms this relationship with this woman. They head off to Iceland, where they have a relationship that follows, and we get to follow them over the years, but also with them dealing with the idea of motherhood. One of them really wants it, one of them really doesn't, and we get to see 2 different sides of the coin, of one person who's just oh my god, I want baby in me, and the other one's
I think that when baby screams, it sounds like the hell is coming down.
Or actually, I'm going to put up a quote here, which is exactly what she quoted it to be. That was a bit rough. I was like, whoa. But yeah, in overall, it was an interesting book. Was it the best plot ever? Not really, but it was engaging enough. The writing, as I said, was really good in the beginning. In the beginning, I was really vibing with it. But then, as I said, the poetry and the lyricism just got a bit much after a certain period of time. In the beginning I was like, yeah, this is amazing, these lines are just whoo, and then towards the middle I was like okay, this needs to be stopped. Not so many metaphors, and just make it stop, please. So yeah, so that's where I was, but still wonderfully written, so can't take that away from the writer. In terms of everything else, I just thought that this was a good book but wasn't a favorite. I think that this would be maybe like a 3 to 3.5 stars in my books right now. And yeah, that's what I have to say as of this moment. Do I have anything else to add? There was nothing else. All right, I'm going to go read my second book and then come back to you with thoughts. All right. Hello and welcome to Outside Sephora. Yes, I am standing in a mall and recording myself because I have lost my mind. But I am here to talk to you about this book called Standing Heavy by GauZ, which is translated by Frank Wynne by from French. So this book, why I'm doing this is because it's about security guards who work at Sephora. So I was like, wouldn't it be interesting if I film outside of Sephora? Yeah, this is very embarrassing for me. So I'm just gonna quickly tell you what this book is about. Essentially, we are following different security guards who have come from like a country like Cote d'Ivoire, and they are working in Paris in different sort of like places. One of them being in Sephora. So we see different sort of chapters going by. So with each chapter, we see a different sort of person from like the 1960s, if I'm not mistaken, all the way up till 2001, which is when 9/11 happened, and we see how their life sort of changed, and we get to see their life in general, but also interspersed in between these three different people. So we see Ferdinand, Osiri, and Kamau or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. And we basically get to see their life. But interspersed between this are these small little snippets of like observations that people have, and these security guards have of people shopping at like either a Sephora or like other sort of stores like malls, etc. And those were okay. Some of them were witty, some of them were trying to be witty, and some of them were just honestly unnecessary. I felt like if you removed those parts altogether and just had those stories of the security guards themselves, it would have been way more compelling, because honestly I was way more like interested in those stories. Like I was way more interested in what happened to Siri and like all of that sort of stuff. So overall this was a short book which I hoped would be longer, and I just sort of felt like this was unfulfilled potential, to be honest, because it could have been way more. But I know that a lot of people have really not liked this book, whereas I didn't mind it as much, maybe because I went in with such low expectations that I was like, hey, this isn't all that bad. And now I'm going to stop talking because there are people, as you can see, staring at me weirdly while I film. So I have finally finished reading Time Shelter by Georgi Gospodinov, which is written in Bulgarian and then translated to English by Angela Rodel. And I might be getting all of their names terribly incorrectly, so I'm so sorry about that. But I finished reading it, and thank fucking Lord, because it took me a hot minute to read this book because I was bored to tears the entire time. Like there was maybe certain parts of this book where I was like, a glimmer of hope, and then it was like stomped out by just sheer freaking boredom. And this, I'm being too harsh. I'm being too harsh. This honestly could be because one, I was dealing with like insane migraine, so I was trying to read during that downtime. So it could be that, but also like I just thought a lot of it was just boring. So maybe this is not for me. I know a lot of other people who have loved this book, but to me, I was just so disappointed because the description of this book, when I first heard of it, sounded so interesting that I was like so intrigued to read this book. This was like one of my, oh my god, these are the books of this long list that I'm definitely going to read, you know, those sort of books. And then I read it and I'm just like, I feel like Tyra Banks, you know, in that American, no, what is that thing called? The American Beauty pageant one. You know the one.
I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you?
So yeah, I felt like that. And the description of this is essentially about this man who works at this like asylums of sorts that works with like Alzheimer patients, and they essentially set up various like floors or rooms or whatever based on like different parts of like time. So like the 60s or the 70s or whatever. So it's called the time shelter. And that is to an extent what it's about. um like in the beginning we get to see that sort of like come into place. This person is working with another person who sort of like set it up, and but while you're explaining all of this, there's just a lot of like rambling in between about like really weird things that made me just sort of like glaze over the page, like, oh my god, you know what I mean? Like it felt like an old uncle was telling you their story, and then they would just go on and on and on about a certain point, and you would just be like, get to it. And maybe that's the point, because it was about like aging, and it was about like the past, and it was about reminiscing and all of that sort of stuff. So maybe like the idea of it was that like it's like an old person talking about certain things, and then they just like go into it. But like, I got that was not like great literature to read. There were certain aspects of it that were like great, but like it was like boredom, oh, a glimmer of hope, and then like sadness and boredom again. So I don't know. I really wasn't in love with this book. I think that the idea of it was great. Like we were looking at this time shelter sort of thing where we were looking at going back into the past and thinking about, oh my god, the things in the past were so much better, etc. And then we actually start living in it and then realizing how great that not is, etc. It's a good idea, it's a great like concept, but just the way that it was executed was just not for me. I couldn't deal with the writing. I have learned about a lot of things and read a lot of things where like there are topics that I'm reading about that are not interesting to me inherently, but it's just written in such a way that I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool, you know, or like prose that like may just like wax poetic about something for like 40 pages, and I'm like, okay, you know, at least it's fine. But like in this instance, I just couldn't do it. And I feel so terrible about this, but unfortunately that's just the way it is. I am so sorry to Georgie putting in pie. I don't know what I'm saying, but yeah, it wasn't for me. I give this maybe a 2 star. I know a ton of other people who have loved this though, so don't don't look at just my review. But I did feel like the end sort of infuriated me. I mean, it didn't infuriate me. I was just like, of course, this had to happen. Like it's one thing which I really don't like in books. So I was like, the end to a sort of shitty book in a sort of shitty way. What else could I expect? I am really leaning into it badly. I'm so sorry. But yeah, this wasn't a favorite. So now I'm gonna go read another book that hopefully I will like, because so far 3 of the 6 books have been either very average or bleh. So hello and welcome to a review by the ocean. And why I'm doing this is because I don't know, I have lost my damn mind. But essentially, I am here to talk to you about the book Whale by Myeong-kwan, translated by Cheon Kim. I am butchering all of these names, but you have to excuse me because my butt is on fire. I am sitting on a slab of stone and in like a really hot climate. So yeah, I'm gonna try to get through this pretty quickly because yeah, as I said, my butt's on fire. But yeah, the book is was surprisingly like a book that I really liked, even though it was really weird. Like really weird. Like I don't like books that feature um, men talking about like breasts, like describing breasts, and it did so in like the very first few pages, and like it also included like a guy with intellectual disabilities who has a very large penis and like has a lot of objectionable sort of stuff, but like I still really enjoyed it. I thought that it was a really fun, fast paced sort of book which constantly made you wonder what was going to happen next. So essentially we follow this story which is basically a bunch of like interconnected short stories. So we basically hear of this girl called Chun Hui who has just gotten out of jail and is coming back to like where she sort of grew up, called Pyong something. Okay, again, sorry, butts on fire. So I'm so sorry about that. But yeah, so we basically follow her, and she's sort of like mute, and we see her coming back to this place that like she sort of grew up in, and we see like stories of her, of also how this like little town sort of like started like coming up, and what that happened, and who the main like catalysts were. We also see like her mother, whose name is Gombok, and like a bunch of other people, because essentially the story is about how small decisions or large decisions have either small or large repercussions on the world, and on people around you, and for either currently or for times to come. And I just thought that idea itself was very interesting. The whole book is sort of narrated through like this omniscient narrator who keeps like telling you stuff that's going to happen. Like, it's like, hey, and then we introduce to this character, and then be like, but this person's gonna die a gruesome death, and you're like, wait, what? And then like many chapters later, you get to see them die a gruesome death, and you're like, oh, damn, okay, that happened. But like, I just thought that these characters were so well etched out and so interesting, and genuinely like captured my imagination. I just was really like intrigued to see like what was happening with these people, and like why they were doing certain things, and what was going to happen to them. This book was essentially just a lot of fun. Like, I really enjoyed what all it had to say, and I think that this might be the most readable Booker International shortlisted book that I have read so far. But yeah, I think that's basically all I'm going to say for right now. I just really enjoyed it, and I thought that it was really good, fun. I think I gave this like a 4.5 stars overall. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna land with it. So yeah, so that's about it. I'm get up now because as I've said many times, my butt is on fire. Okay. Hello and welcome to a new book review in front of a church. Where is the church, you ask? It is right here. You just can't see it because it is that tall. It's a tall ass church. And I'm here to talk to you about a book called Gospel According to the New World by Maryse Condé, translated by Frank Wynne. I don't know. Someone. Anyway, this book was interesting because I don't know why I had to read it, because it was terrible. And I am standing here in front of God being like, hey, God, why do you make me read this? But yeah, Maryse Condé has written many books, and this is supposed to be her last ever book. She is basically giving up on being a writer because she is quite old, and she's written many books. So like, there's one book called like Segu that I really want to read, and there are a bunch of like, books that she's written which are really good, but this wasn't good. So there's that. But essentially, we are following this guy named Pascal who is born in like a country, like a island country like Guadalupe, which is where Mary Condé is from. And he is born in like a barn by a girl who doesn't want him. So she's quite young. So she leaves him in the barn, and then the people who own the barn and like the place kind of like adopt him, and he is like, the whole like birth etc is very like Jesus. So he's supposedly this person who has like these miraculous abilities, and people have like this whole like rumor about him etc, that he may be like the second coming or whatever. And as we go along and see his life, we see that a lot of stuff that happens to him is sort of like mirrors Jesus as well. So like, for example, he has friends like disciples and all of that sort of stuff. So people like Lazarus, or people called Judas, or people called Mary, or whatever. So like, they are part of his like people who follow him because like they want to listen to whatever he has to say. But also like we see how he does these sort of miracles, like bringing people back to life or whatever. But they also show us like real reasons why that may not have been like a miracle, because like say for example a person was really high and went into like a comatose state for like a, a day and then came back to like being born essentially. Does this guy want to park? I don't know. Anyway, um, that's like basically what it's about. It's supposed to be like a parody of like Jesus, if like there was a second coming in current day and what that would look like. And it was interesting to an extent where like we get to see him being born, then him having many affairs, so many affairs, um, but also like him running off to this remote island and having like this father who's like sort of like this god figure in the world and all of that sort of stuff, and all of that is like interesting. But also I just didn't care about the characters or like anything that was going on. I just wasn't invested. I genuinely just didn't care. And even though this was a short book, it took me a really long period of time to read it because I was just like, please God, let this pass. Yeah, that's basically where I stood with this book. I again have nothing against the author per se. This just wasn't a book for me. I know that I may have appreciated way more if I knew like the whole story of Jesus and like could connect it to like things that have happened in the Bible. But I know a lot of people who have also read this didn't really care for it, who also may have known these stories. So I think this one is like a bit of a pass for me. And I am going to now stop filming in public and get on with my life. Yay! So we are finally on the last book to be shortlisted for this Booker Prize that I have read, and that is Stillborn by Guadalupe Nettel, translated from Spanish by Rosalind, Harvey. And surprise, surprise, this is another book about mothers and motherhood and children, and I just feel like that's a theme of this year, I think. I don't know. But yeah, this book was a book that I actually enjoyed. So in this one, we talk about two friends who are Laura and Alina, who are friends since they were like in college. And when they were in college, they both came to this sort of decision that they both don't want to have kids. They don't want to become mothers because the idea of motherhood is just not something that, they subscribe to. So they go on with their life and they're still like besties. But later on in life, they come to a decision. So basically Alina comes to a decision that she wants to have kids because she's, has a good paying job, she has a good like husband or partner, and she like changes her mind, and Laura doesn't. So she's still in the phase that like I don't want children. But we follow Alina as she goes through this journey of like doing IVF and like doing a bunch of things to finally get pregnant. And then when she does get pregnant, there are some complications with the child, and we get to know more about that as this book progresses. And it's really like heartbreaking to see someone go through that. But I think that like these issues are like really well discussed in this book. What I liked about this book was that even though like Alina wants to have a child and she's obviously deviated from this like sort of plan that both of them had, or like this thought process, I think that like her friend still is so like supportive of her, and it's not just like, fuck you, I can't believe you changed your mind, blah blah blah, after all of these years. It feels very like different from, for example, like Boulder, which was very like either I want to birth this child or this extreme disdain for it. But yeah, like it felt like it was somewhere in the middle, and I thought that that was really well done. But yeah, on the other end, we see like Lara, who said that she doesn't want to have a child, but she has a neighbor who's a single mom who has like a 9-year-old or 8-year-old or 10-year-old boy, and they are clearly going through stuff. So she sort of steps in and like starts like helping them, and it's this whole thing about like parenting. So she sort of, even though she didn't want to be a mother, is sort of like also sort of mothering this child. And it's just very interesting how the idea of motherhood is sort of like spoken about in this book, where it's not just discussed between like these two people, but also their relationships with their mothers and all of that. And I thought that it was done in this really like seamless sort of way where you get all of the emotions that you're supposed to get, but like I feel like somehow portraying these like muted emotions, or like these emotions that sort of ride down like underneath, and I don't know, just to like express that is just such a like powerful thing to be able to do, you know, in your writing. And yeah, I just thought that it was really well done. Like the Laura also has like a thing with like these pigeons, which are on like her terrace, like her whatever, like a balcony sort of thingy. Basically like these pigeons build a nest and they have like this egg which is in the nest, so she's like, oh, I can't like break this nest now because like they're going to give birth to a baby pigeon. And like I had a very similar situation in my dry area, so I was like totally relating to this whole thing. And yeah, like I had pigeons in my like near my washing machine, and like we didn't break the nest because like there were eggs in it. And like then the pigeons sort of were born and then they were like there till they learned how to fly, and there was this one pigeon who couldn't fly, so we were like, oh my god. But yeah, it was just like, I don't know, it's how you get invested in like motherhood, like just caring for people, even, or like birds, even though like you have said that like I don't want to care for another person. So I think that this idea was portrayed really really well through this book, and I thought that it was really really like enjoyable. Was it like a 5 star for me? It was not, but I still think that a lot of like stuff from this book will like stay on with me for a while. So yeah, those are all the books that I have read from the short list. And now literally this is, I have put off this video for a long period of time. Like I've put this off for a seriously long period of time. So we are finally at the end, and I have read all 6 books. So now I can rank them for you, and tell you what my personal rankings are, what my personal, what I hope will win, and what I think will win. So let's get into that. So my 6th place is going to be Time Shelter. Though I see a lot of people on Instagram saying that they think Time Shelter is going to win, which I think is just like, I see where they're coming from, but also I don't. I don't know. Maybe it just wasn't for me, but a lot of people have seemed to like it because it broke a lot of form, etc. But like whatever, I didn't enjoy the book. I thought that it could have been done better. My 5th place is going to have to go to Gospel According to the New World, because again I felt like that book just didn't give what it was supposed to give. I didn't quite enjoy it, but I did follow the plot along, and like I don't know, it was a solid meh for me, you know. 4th place I'm going to give to Standing Heavy. I thought that Standing Heavy had its charm in certain areas, as I've said, but I felt like it was sort of a disappointment in the end, because like there could have been so much that could have been done with these characters, and I just wish that we got to see more of their life on page. And then 3rd, of course, is Boulder. I think Boulder had some really great writing, as the author is a poet, as I've said, but unfortunately I think that like it didn't quite give as much as it wanted to like give me personally. So yeah, I like Boulder, but like I feel like it could have been better. And the second, of course, is Stillborn, which I have just spoken to you about. And then the 1st place is going to go to Whale, because I thought that even though it has so many problematic issues, and just like is weird, I liked that weird. I like reading weird books. I like reading books that like sort of challenge you and is also like really fun to sort of read. I just thought that it was a very interesting story, and that is my number 1 for this ranking. But as for who I want to win, obviously I will want Whale or Stillborn to win. Actually, I think I want Whale to win. I want Whale to win, but who I think will win is either Whale or Stillborn. I think those are my that's my guess for this. If the last two, which is Time Shelter or Gospel, win, I will be just up in arms, but also not so much because it doesn't really affect my life in such a big way. But I hope you liked this video, and I hope that like you enjoyed my reviews for this. This was a different one because I didn't like sit down and vlog my whole experience. It was just straight up review, so I hope that you liked that. If you do like me talking about books, I am going to be reviewing another like Pulitzer Prize book coming out super soon, so do check out that. And in general, I have a lot of other like fun bookish sort of content coming to you. So yeah, I hope that this was fun, and I will see you literally I think tomorrow, because I have taken way too much time for this video. So tomorrow with my reactions to who wins the Booker Prize. So yeah, the International Booker. Hopefully it is what I wanted to win, but I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I'm gonna go, but I hope you have a lovely day, and I will see you very, very soon.